Hello, I'm John Wagner, and welcome to Cosmic Destiny, or Cosmic Dust, the very first video. I'm going to start sharing videos about stories from my life, because I've experienced quite a few very unexplainable things, events, and the reason I want to share them with people is that way, if something like this happens to you, you can know that you're not alone and you aren't crazy. But today, I'm going to talk about the UFOs that I've seen and the experiences that I've had with UFOs. So my first UFO, I was 10 years old. It was 1985 and I was in Eugene, Oregon. It was 4th of July and I had watched the fireworks displays earlier in the evening, and I was laying in a lawn chair in my backyard. It was probably around 11 or 12, closer to midnight. It was later. And I was laying up looking at the stars like I often did. So as I laid in the lawn chair, my 10-year-old self, I saw something out of my peripheral vision to the right. It was floating about 30 feet above the roofs of the houses. I think I probably noticed it, I'd say probably around 400 feet away when I first noticed it. So it was floating slowly. I didn't know what it was, but I was keeping my eyes on it. It was floating, and when it came into view, this is what it looked like. It looked like kind of the shape of a gumdrop. The bottom was round, and along the sides, it was ruffled like a clamshell. Pardon my artistic ability is not the best, but I gave a little drawing here. So it was shaped like a gumdrop. That's the bottom there. The side, all around, was ruffled like a clamshell. And down each of the ruffles, it had a glowing line, more lines than I have drawn here. And it wasn't like an incandescent kind of, fiery glow. It was as if the material itself was exuding light. It was a very steady, solid light. And on the bottom, there was a circle, a glowing circle around the edge with an X, with a cross through the center at the bottom. Now, the reason I can recall the look of this so well is because it was right over me, about 30 feet above my head as I looked at it. I'd say it's hard to tell. I think it was around 4 to 6 feet wide. It wasn't very big, 4 to 6 feet tall. And the light that it exuded was a bluish, whitish kind of light. Bluish, whitish with some red. But very steady. And so I'm looking up at this thing right above me, right? This amazing, strange, clamshell gumdrop thing. It didn't make any noise. And so as I'm laying there and I'm realizing this thing is like right over the top of me, I wanted to go tell my mom. So I tried to move and I couldn't move. My body was completely paralyzed. And so I screamed at the top of my lungs, just everything I could, "Mom! Mom!" And I could feel the air coming out of my lungs. And I could feel the air coming out of my mouth. I could feel my vocal cords vibrating. But there was no sound. I couldn't hear anything. I don't know if I passed out of fear, but I lost consciousness for a while. And then I remember coming back to myself and, kind of blinking, and I still couldn't move, right? As I was looking up at this thing. and then it slowly started to move away, going to the left of me. And I'm watching it, I couldn't move my head, but I obviously could move my eyes, and I was watching as it went away. And when it got about 200 feet away, all of a sudden I could move. So I jumped up and ran inside, and told my mom what happened. Can't really remember what she said. I think she just basically blew me off, So the next year, 1986, it was the consecutive 4th of July. I was in the front of my house this time, right? And I was looking at my neighbor's garage door for some reason. I was just out in the front. Again, it was close to midnight. And I saw this red light beaming, on the garage door of my neighbor across the street. So I went to investigate it. I went closer, and I've seen a lot of lasers before, right? I've seen lasers at light shows, and I've seen, all kinds of different lasers. This laser was different than anything I'd ever seen because it was so dense. It was dense, like brick red dense. The light was just so dense. And inside of the light, it was about the size of a silver dollar, and maybe a little smaller, like a Susan B. Anthony, bigger than a quarter, smaller than a silver dollar. And inside of this round red circle, there were 3 oblong black shapes. They looked like pills. They kind of looked like long pills that you would eat, and they were moving inside of the circle, 3 of them. I tried to draw what I kind of saw, so the laser was this dense red, and then on the inside, these little black things were moving around, right, slowly. And when one would hit the center or the edge of the light, it would move back, like moving real slow. And all 3 of them were moving in different directions, right? And when they would touch the edge of the redness, it would kind of double back on itself, keep going, all inside of this red circle. So I wanted to get a closer look, so I took a couple steps forward, and it disappeared. I took a couple steps back. It reappeared. I took a couple steps forward, and it disappeared again. And when I took a couple steps back, it was gone. It took me, I think, about 2 decades to realize that when I had stepped forward to check it out and it disappeared, that's because it was beaming on the back of my head. And when I stepped back, it was there again. There aren't any houses that are on a level to where a laser could have shot to that angle. There's no houses above my house like that. There's just a forest. And if I used the angle extrapolated from how close I had to get to check it out, and when I went back, that laser was coming out of the sky. Simple as that. One other thing that I'd like to share about these 2 experiences, being consecutive years, is one of the strange things about me is that I was born with no birthmarks. I had no birthmarks at all when I was born. But ever since that, my first UFO experience, I've had this very faint, I don't think you can see it here, it's really faint. It looks as if somebody used a paintbrush and just brushed my arm with the paintbrush. That just appeared, in the summer with my tan. It gets a little darker than the rest of my skin. It's there, it's just very subtle, and I don't have a tan right now. So let's continue. Those were the first 2. Later on, when I was 17, I was in the car with my mom. She was driving, and I was looking out the window, Amazingly enough, my mom saw something as she was driving. It was a bright star, kind of in the southeast. And she said, "Look at that bright star in the sky." And I said, "Oh, that's just Venus," right? But since I wasn't driving, I kept my eyes on it. And it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And so I told my mom, I was like, "Mom, pull over the car." She's like, "Why?" I said, "Mom, just trust me. Pull over the car, okay?" So we pull over the car. And, I direct her attention up. And this thing, it was shaped like a hexagon. It was nighttime, same thing. Everybody was just sort of driving by, and my mom and I are staring up at the sky. The sky was kind of a dark purple, and the bottom of this ship was pitch black. And it completely blacked out the sky. It's hard to describe how big this was. I would say anywhere from 100 to 1,000 miles long, because it was above the stratosphere. I mean, it was way up there, and it was humongous. I mean, mind-bogglingly big. It's hard to describe how big it was. Bigger than a city. But it was shaped like a hexagon, and on each of the vertex angles here, it had one of those star lights, And as it passed the globe, let's say this is the Earth, it only took about 3 seconds, At first it was a star out here, and then it came over in about 1, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 3 full seconds. I saw this thing just black out the sky. Huge, no sound. Just, a 100-mile long, 1,000-mile long hexagon. And just as fast as it came over the globe, after 3 seconds, it was a star out in space again. It just kept going. And my mom has actually seen a UFO when she was with her sister. I'm just going to add this because she saw a UFO with her sister in Seattle, Washington back in I guess it must have been the late 50s, early 60s. Her and her sister were driving down the freeway, and they saw this thing that looked like a cigar. It was a gray cigar-shaped craft. So they followed it. And I think it went over, was it Lake Washington? And when they got there were other people there watching this happen, right? They weren't the only ones. They got in the parking lot, and this big, cigar-shaped gray vessel hovered over the lake. And then she said a bunch of different colored lights, 5 or 6 different colored lights came out of every different direction, and it went right up into the bottom of this thing, and it went off. So she wasn't alone either. And that's the whole point of this, is that if you're, ever seen UFOs, we're not alone, right? So this is my experience. Another thing I saw when I was around 19, I was looking at the clouds, and there were this really puffy, dense white cloud, and it was pretty high up. And that's why I was looking at it, because it was so dense. It looked like a really dense cloud. And again, pardon my artistic ability here. It came apart. I saw these, there were 2, and they came together, and there was a male piece and a female piece, and it kind of looked like these cylindrical, the cloud was white, right? The 2 clouds were white, but these things, they looked like metal. They looked like, it was kind of shaped like a big metal cylinder on one side of this cloud, and then on the other side, there was a female kind of metal piece, huge, we're talking cloud sized, and they just came together and kept floating. I don't know what that was. So as you can imagine, sorry, I just had to put a little edit in there. I had a brain fart. So as you can imagine, I've been pretty interested in UFOs my whole life, because I didn't go looking for them, right? They found me. I didn't look for these things. They came to me, right? So once something like that happens to you, I mean, you gotta give it some credit. So I've been following Stephen Greer for a while and listening to him about how to do what is it, CE5 type of things, right? So he says that he goes out with these groups and they meditate and they use these lasers to vector in UFOs. So I went online and I got myself, the strongest little hand-powered laser I could get. It was a green beam one. And one morning on my way to work, it was early, about 4 a.m, clear sky. I went out in the parking lot, no meditation or anything, but I was like, you know what? I'll give it a shot. And I shot that laser up into the sky above me. And not more than, it was pretty much instantaneous. Half a second, I beamed it up there, and right where I shot the laser appeared the longest, brightest, slowest moving shooting star I've ever seen in my life. It just, right where I shot the laser is where it appeared, and then it just slowly moved across the sky. For about 12 seconds. It lasted forever, and then it was gone. So I thought, okay, that worked. I went to work. And so I waited a couple months, right? Because I'm not greedy. I didn't go out the next night and just start doing it. I waited, waited a couple months. And then a couple months later, I was sitting in my balcony. And same thing, I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to give it a shot. And I shot that laser into the sky. And right within, I'm talking within seconds, 2 or 3 seconds this time, right where I shot it, out in the sky, miles and miles up in the sky away, I saw these little glowing orbs. And this time there was about 3. They just sort of came and were moving around in the same area where I had shot that laser. And the things that I saw, it sounds like, are the same kinds of orbs that people see on Stephen Greer's exhibitions, or when they go out together. Excursions. So I did that one more time. And again, it was a couple months ago, a couple months later, same thing, multiple orbs, right? And then ever since then, when I've tried it, I haven't seen anything. But I think it's really because I don't need to. I know they're there, right? I know this works. And, does it put bread on my table? No. Does it give me job security or, keep me from getting an ulcer or something? No, it doesn't. But I think it is interesting that what I experienced just from being by myself like that, it falls right in with what Stephen Greer was talking about. So, I'm going to start trying to get together with people and do some meditation, get together and do some meditation with people and see if we can't work together. Anyway, thank you very much for listening, if you're still there, to my UFO experiences. Please look forward to more videos from me, John Wagner. I have some other names I'll share later, but, right now, we're not going to get too deep down the rabbit hole. Okay, but this is my channel, Cosmic Destiny, or Cosmic Dust. Thank you for watching, and if you like it, subscribe, because I will be doing more, I promise. Okay, I hope you're all feeling great and having a wonderful day. All right, I love you all, and I really mean that. Bye-bye.